Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 10th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sure. Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasonowski.
Here.
Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Robert Hawkins.
Here.
Thanks.
Okay, move on to the approval of the minutes from our previous meetings from October 27th. Any changes or edits to those minutes?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes for October 27th.
Motion to approve is our second.
Second.
Second from John. All fair say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, those are approved. All right, before we jump into old business, tonight we have a quick kind of introduction presentation. Suzanne from the Foundry Partners, just want to kind of say hello to City Council and introduce herself. They're kind of a new organization that's in the town, and I'll let her kind of explain what they're doing.
It's Mayor Gentry, and I just want to thank Councilor Kincaid for inviting me today. My name's Suzanne Rothenberg. I'm the Community Relations Manager for F.A. Wilhelm and for the Foundry Partners. We are building the Lilly Medicine Foundry out on State Road 32, and I just want to take an opportunity to introduce myself. We have a commitment to being good construction neighbors, and I am the face of that. So I personally answer any of the calls, concerns, questions, inquiries that we receive about the construction site. There's a couple of actual, changes calls that we received and changes that we made. We have a huge commitment to safety. I know that there have been some concerns about traffic along State Road 32. We actually, 2 weeks ago, just started only using our entrances and exits off of 200. Now that a lot of the road work is done there. We just reached, safety is a huge, it's a really important part of our construction, of our build. And we actually just hit a milestone of 200,000 safe man hours out on our site. So that means 200,000 combined hours without a major incident. So that's a really exciting piece to report. There are some other things we're doing to be good neighbors as well. So for instance, we keep as much as we possibly can on site. Our workers are going to be fed lunch on site. We have a partnership with a local Boone County-based caterer to do that. It's going to keep 2,000 people from running out into Lebanon and trying to get lunch at the Beefaroo in 20 minutes or less. Like, we love the Beefaroo, but that's not possible to serve quite everybody. We also have all of our equipment is on site as well. So we're not going to be sending boom lifts and skid steers up and down 65 or throughout town as we need them, because we have a lot with all of our equipment on site. So we're doing as much as we possibly can to minimize disruptions around us. And we're also doing a lot that we can to be actual good neighbors in the community where we're invited and welcome. So we do business with local companies as much as possible. Royal Cleaners does our rug service. I have really enjoyed getting to know Becky's Market. I don't know if anyone else out here is obsessed with local fruit, but we organized 2 times this summer where they picked corn and brought over a truckload of corn, and we just unloaded it with a forklift and gave it to our staff so they could be their cookout heroes of the weekend. And we've also shown up at some community events. So if anyone was at Mischief on Meridian, that was my most exciting community engagement event. We set up a whole spooky construction site. We had a mini excavator. We had a mini skid steer. I was really excited for kids to be able to take candy right out of the bucket of the skid steer. I was really pleasantly surprised at how many of the dads went, "Oh, that's a real piece of equipment they got here." And it was. They had been hauling cement in it or concrete in it earlier that day. But I guess long story to short, I've really enjoyed getting to know the community, being in the community. A lot of the questions and the concerns that are brought to us are valid and addressable and insightful. And so if anybody has questions or concerns for the Medicine Foundry, specifically the construction of the Medicine Foundry, we can be reached at 844-594-7697. I can say that one more time if anyone's taking notes. It's 844-594-7697. We can also be emailed at contact@thefoundrypartners.com. And for the counselors, I gave Mike my business card, so feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out if anyone out here would like for us to be doing local business or supporting your charity organization. Foundry Partners and F.A. Wilhelm are open and excited to join the community. And so I'm happy to hear from you and to explore possible partnerships.
Great. Thank you,
So thanks.
Suzanne. Any questions for Suzanne before we let her go? Okay, I appreciate you coming, putting
Yeah,
a face
thanks
to a
so much
name
for having
and
me
being
out.
a contact for us. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, move on to old business then. First item up here will be ordinance 2025-37. This is council to consider the Patch Limp Farms PUD rezone and ordinance for 1305 South State Road 39. And this is on second reading. Ben?
Evening, council members. I'll just give a real brief recap of our discussion at the last council meeting. This is the second reading of the Patch Limp Farms PUD rezone and ordinance. This comes to you from the Plan Commission with a unanimous positive recommendation for adoption. Just a quick reminder of the process. PUD rezones. What it's really intended to do or to be used is when you have a multi-use type of development that doesn't really fit into one of your existing zoning classifications. So in this case, this site is zoned primarily commercial now, and what they're looking in terms of proposals for this development of this site is a mix of commercial, retail, light industrial uses, and also some higher density residential uses. And I'll show you that sub-district here in a second that we looked at last week. So that's really the reason why we encourage them to go through the PUD rezone and ordinance process, because they can set up their sub-districts for each one of the use classifications that they're proposing for the site, and they're able to do so with more flexibility than any of our zoning districts provide. So that's really the reason for that. The process requires a review of that ordinance by the Plan Commission, which was done first, and that comes to you with the positive recommendation I said, and then it is an ordinance, so it takes 2 readings here at the council before theoretical adoption of that ordinance. Tonight we're scheduled for that second reading of that ordinance. So this is the site here, State Road 39. Again, as I mentioned, my aerial photography is incredibly old, but you can see where the building pad for the field house is just to the north off the screen here. This is the site on the east side of State Road 39. Again, as I said, a majority of this, I believe all of it's actually zoned commercially right now. And so this would really create a mixed use district to replace that existing commercial zoning of the property. Again, just a quick recap here. Here's the sub-district plan. The sub-districts along State Road 39 are primarily commercial and office flex. A potential up here in the far northwestern corner where it could go either commercial or residential, depending on how the residential area develops here on the north end of the property. This purple district is residential. Tan becomes more of a light industrial district. The green is also light industrial, and then yellow is residential. So, and the way we've written the standards is there's restricted sizes in each one of these commercial light industrial zoning districts. And so the smaller buildings would be on the State Road 39 side, and then they become larger as you go further to the southeast, but still have restricted sizes in there. Really looking to try to capture the advanced manufacturing markets, research and development, lab space. Some of these may be suppliers to some of the larger users in the LEAP district in the future. Don't really have any specific users online right now, but really looking to try to capture some of that advanced manufacturing, more technical space here, as opposed to warehousing, distribution, those sorts of things. So really looking at higher wage jobs in this district that might support LEAP district or otherwise have some other advanced manufacturing capabilities. So that's a quick recap. I know we did have some discussion, Dick, last time about maybe expanding the residential area. We did not change anything with this map. One thing, again, I just want to reemphasize, we talked about a little bit last time, was that the way the ordinance is written, the boundaries of each of these sub-districts can change up to a certain amount, such that if there is a residential developer that comes and says, you know, I really can take that entire northeast corner of this and develop a variety of different residential uses, we can do so and modify the boundaries of that sub-district to allow for something that, if the market dictates, that comes. So we didn't necessarily change it. We kept it the same, but just wanted to make sure that we all understood that it can change depending on how the market up to a certain level. And that would accommodate what you're talking about with the residential demand. With that, I'd just be happy to answer any questions. Again, the developer is here if there are any questions for them as well, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Dick?
Yeah, Ben, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now, again. Okay, I'm just kind of wanting to know, I know we were looking at changes to like water supply and whatever. Is the water supply good enough for all these developments that are coming? Or are we still piecing out bits and pieces of these to?
Yeah. So in this development specifically, the timing of this, there wouldn't be anything that would come online until 2027 at the earliest. So that would fall under that phase one of the Citizens Project. Some of these areas may not come online until 2028 when the second phase is here. So yeah, there isn't anything out here. I mean, they may start some site work, broad site work, but they're like I said, we don't have any users on the hook right now out here. So there's nothing imminent. So nothing out here would be coming online until at least 2027.
What's their timeline on, their expected timeline on building out this project? How many years do they think they'll be?
I'll let them.
Yeah, well, I saw them back there. That's why I was kind of looking back there for.
For the record, Dylan Lee with Patch Development. Expected timeline would probably be the spring, summer of 2026, where we start earthwork construction.
So how many years will you think, to build the whole thing out? I guess is my question.
It's a good question. Well, it's largely going to be market driven.
They're driven?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard to say at this point.
Let's hope it doesn't go too fast.
Right.
Any other questions from council?
No.
Sandra? Yep.
And this might not be for you, it might be for Ben, but why do rezone before we know what's coming in? Since you said that you don't have anything in mind, why do we need to rezone first?
That's typically how the process works. If you've got an end user that's looking at a site, they're going to want to see that zoning's in place to allow for them, because they're not going to want to buy anything until they know that their use is permitted. So that's why the zoning often comes first, because we're basically setting the table for the users that would come to the site that would be looking for that zoning and utilities in place for them to come.
If we don't have anybody in mind, though, we're closing that door on others that might be interested in that area. I personally would rather know what's coming or who wants to be there, and then say, okay, we'll get the zoning for you. I'd rather know ahead of time instead of behind like we are.
I would just say that there will be practically no end users that would enter into a situation like that, because they're going to be looking for zoning in place, utilities in place, and a site essentially ready for them to start construction. That's too much risk for any end user to take. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, so Sandra, we just saw kind of an example of what you're proposing, what we should do with the R.L. Turner site in the county, where they didn't have the zoning in place but already owned the land. And we saw how that did not go very well, right? So us setting the framework, because again, as been said, currently it's all zoned commercial now. And so we actually want to down zone it to residential and allow the transition to that site below it is full industrial zoning. So we're trying to create a transition space, so it doesn't really fit what we have currently. So having the PUD allows us to create that transition between the two.
Or somebody does say, okay, we'd like to go there, we'll know who's coming, right?
Yes. Yeah, there will still have to be, this is just zoning. This is, any user that comes, this will have to file development plans with the city before they could start construction. So there's still a lot of work between now and the time somebody would start construction. But this essentially sets the uses that are permitted in each one of these sub-districts so that a potential end user has comfort that their use is permitted before they start investing money in a site.
Any further questions? Okay, Rod, go on reading the ordinance, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Council Ordinance 2025-37, again, is a Patch Limp Farms PUD district. And I'll hit the highlights. This is several pages, about 22 pages with exhibits. So as Ben indicated, the Plan Commission forwarded its docket after a public hearing to this council with a favorable recommendation by a vote of 5-0 in accordance with Indiana law. And this council finds, and I'll just hit the highlights again. Exhibit A sets forth the legal description. Exhibit B is the concept map that Ben just put up on the screen and that you've seen. Section 1 of the ordinance talks about the applicability of the ordinance. Section 2 has the definitions. Again, Section 3 goes into a little bit more detail with the concept plan. Section 4 discusses the underlying zoning districts that we talked about a little bit more at the last meeting. Section 5 addresses the permitted uses. Section 6 are some general regulations, minimum lot sizes, widths, frontage, and those are several pages. Section 7 addresses the development standards that would include like sign regulations, landscaping. And Section 8 addresses the design standards, and there's some imageries, pictures that you saw at the last meeting. That's in Exhibit C. It talks about various architectural requirements as well, and that's several pages. Section 9 talks about permitting and procedures. Section 10 is vacation and right-of-ways, and again, all this ordinance shall be in full force and effect after adoption.
Thank you, Rob. Another point too, all of these regulations in this PUD are equal to or greater than our current zoning classifications, right? So this will be a quality development with it as well too. So just want to point that out. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-37 at this time? Any final discussion, comments from council?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2025.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, that concludes what I have for old business. Anything from council? Okay, new business then. Do I have consent to take the agenda out of order from council? Consent? Okay, let's move item F up to here. This will be ordinance 2025-38. This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-21 and the availability criteria under the small general power electric rate schedule and amending the general terms and conditions for electric service. So very snappy title there, Jeff. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, council. My name is Jeff Jacob. I'm here tonight with David Bailey from Lebanon Utilities. And David's really the one that uncovered this issue in our ordinance. This is sort of a cleanup item. And David is happy to answer any technical questions if you should have any. What we're asking the city council to do is to make sure that the letter of the ordinances, our rate ordinances, meets the spirit. We have, as you can see, we've added language that prevents a large power user, despite their usage matching a large power user, independently classifying themselves as a small power user into a lower rate. This is old language that had, with one of our old rates, had fallen away out of the ordinance, and we're asking the council to add it back in. In essence, what we're doing is we are establishing a minimum kilowatt usage for large power and a maximum for small. And that enables us to lock in that rate for certain periods of time. Just one other item, really what that's going to do, who that's going to impact is that borderline user between a small power and large power user. If they're on the fence, our hope is that would encourage them to conserve and drop down into the lower rate. So I would tell you that this comes to you after a resolution of the utility board unanimously recommending approval of this ordinance to you. So happy to answer any questions as well as David.
Any questions for Jeff or David from council? Okay, Rob, I'll have you read it, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2025-38, again, is an ordinance amending Ordinance 2022-21, which talks about the availability criteria under the small general power electric rate schedule. And it also amends the general terms and conditions for the electric service. Again, the city, through its utility service board, owns and operates a municipal electric utility known as the Lebanon Utilities. That's defined as a utility. The utility's existing rates and charges for electric service were placed into effect following the approval of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission under cause number in September 12, 2012. This council, upon recommendation from the utility board, previously adopted its ordinance 2022-21. And whereas the small general power, and that's SGP defined in here, is electric rate schedule is adopted in ordinance 2022-21, does not expressly define, as Mr. Jacob indicated, the maximum monthly demand threshold in the criteria for eligibility, but the rate has generally been applied to customers of the utility within the electric demand. So the board's recommended, again, amending the SGP electric rate schedule. So therefore, this council finds that the availability provision in the small general power rate schedule adopted in ordinance 2022-21 is amended to reflect the language set forth in Exhibit A, which is attached to this ordinance. All other provisions of ordinance 2022-21 and the utilities rate schedules and general terms and conditions not expressly amended by this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. The utilities general terms and conditions for electric service are amended to include the new section 13.1 as set forth in Exhibit B, which is attached to this ordinance and incorporated herein by reference. Any portion of this ordinance that's in conflict is hereby superseded to the extent inconsistent with, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption and in accordance with Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions, comments from council? No, sir. Okay. Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-38? Okay. That's been read on first reading. We'll take it up at our next meeting, which will be November 24th at 7:15 p.m. All right. Next item up
Thank
here.
you, Council. And Mr. Bailey, who is his day off, thanks you for moving this up on the agenda. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next item up here, we'll return to regular order, will be the food and beverage request concerning the demolition of structures at the former street department garage. Kevin?
Thank you very much. I guess first of all, let me clarify the agenda item. It mentioned raised demolition. We have not chosen a contractor yet. That was just I guess a bit of a copy and paste error from a prior agenda. So earlier tonight, the Board of Works, they authorized us to issue quotes for that. So, or issue an invitation for quoting on this. So that's where we are at. We are planning to quote this project. We have done some initial investigations with various contractors on this subject, and we feel as though we can complete the project for well within $100,000. And so this is the demolition of all structures and foundations on the site. This is not the demolition of the existing parking lots that exist there, just because those parking lots need to remain in place because there are some contaminated soils underneath them, and we don't want to disturb those until we have the fully developed engineered construction plans and permits that are needed to develop that park to its entirety. So for right now, this is just, we are planning to issue an invitation to quote, and we're looking for food and beverage funding so that once we get the quotes in and received, we can make a recommendation on a contractor and immediately move forward with demolition of the structure in anticipation of a BOT delivery method for the construction of that park in 2026.
Any questions from council? Yep.
I just have a quick question. I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but I was just trying to remember, has IDEM been out to assess the site yet and given us
Yes.
a quote? Did they find anything that's going to be hindrance to putting the park there or
No,
anything?
we already have a phase 1 and a phase 2 environmental site assessments that has been submitted to NDOT. Phase 1 has been approved. Phase 2 has been approved. We're waiting for a comfort letter on that. We have also submitted and have an approved soil management plan. So what we have over the years, and it's probably from our use and probably from the prior users, the site goes back a long way to where it's been used in the construction trades. And so there is some, the contamination of the soil is basically oil and gas is what you might expect, actually. It's not at significant levels that will require removal. It's just at a level that will require containment, meaning the area where geotechnical borings showed that the oil and gas deposits were found, that area will have to, in its final condition, will have to be encased. So it'll have to have something over the top of it, like a parking lot or a skate park. Both are things that we were planning to do. In fact, the master plan for the park strategically places those things over where they need to be to encapsulate those areas. The only other environmental restrictions would be that we couldn't allow residential uses on the property, and we couldn't install any groundwater wells, which groundwater wells are not permitted inside city limits at this time anyway. So,
Sorry, that was a little sidebar.
yep.
All right, any other questions from council? Okay, so the request is for a not to exceed $100,000 from the Food and Beverage Fund.
Exactly.
Any concerns with that from council?
Do we have a dollar amount, what we have in the food and beverage fund at this time? Approximate?
Our overall fund balance, I was looking at it today, was about 1.2 million in the fund. I believe we've been fairly light on appropriations out of it this year, so we do have in our budgeted amount there should be enough there. But
I want to say, I can't, I'm sorry, I should have wrote the number down. I want to say the balance for this year's appropriation is still over $300,000.
This happened this year? Do you know?
Start this year. I can't
Okay.
promise it would be
it'll be
finished.
under contract this year is the plan.
Very good.
Yes. So we would encumber any funds that are needed with that contract once it's in
And
place.
the demolition will start this year?
I would like to think it will until we open quotes and truly negotiate the schedules with the contractors. Well, I won't know for certain, but we've anticipated 50 to 60 days at most in demolition time. So we're anticipating this to go fairly quickly and try to get these out of here yet this year.
Any other questions or concerns? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second, but
Second.
we will get another update on who's going to do it, right?
Yeah, so the board,
Yes.
the Board of Works will, once we have we issued the authorization to seek the quotes for it. So we'll receive those quotes in, and I believe they'll be sealed quotes as well, or we're not sure yet.
We think this is under the
sealed
threshold.
Okay.
They will have to be sealed. So we will just be working with qualified contractors to submit quotes. And then your Board of Works is the contracting authority for the city. So they will be the ones that would
So
execute
we'll
contracts.
present at the Board of Works meeting what the quotes were, and then we'll select from that standpoint.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that's approved. Thank you, council. Okay, so item B and C, item B was removed after some further discussions. And then item C, this was actually related to the issuance of an RFPQ for the construction and design of the West Side Park at this site. However, after further review, we decided it'd be better for the Parks Board to fully issue that RFPQ. So that'll actually be going to the Parks Board, I believe, at their next meeting. Kevin, is that right? November?
Yes, the next meeting is December 5th.
Yeah.
So you do have a copy of the draft RFPQ for the development of the park. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, please reach out to me. But because it is a park project, it has to go to the Park Board for this authorization.
However, we do want to include a city council member on the selection committee when we review those submissions. So if there's any volunteers for that selection committee to serve on that, just let us know. We can cross that bridge. So, okay. Okay.
That's the park up by me, right? I wouldn't mind being on there too.
That's fine. We can work through that. Yep, sure. That's fine. I'll let you guys duke it out. We'll see. All right. So that's why item C was removed, because I'll go to the Parks Board for that one. So next item up then, I think, Kevin, you're done. You're good.
I am done.
Okay. Unlike normal. All right. Next item up will be item D. This is the water wastewater agreement with Project Domino, also named Orla LLC, and Jeff Jacob, or Ed.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Let me just get started. I just wanted to say this Orla water wastewater agreement is the result of many months of negotiations, a lot of back and forth, and I think it's a good agreement that protects the ratepayers. It's good for the city. It represents what IEDC had in mind as far as the relationship goes. And this agreement, along with some other in the future, other ones we've done in the past, are just going to set up Lebanon's future for water, because Orla being here is going to have developers pay for their fair share of water growth. I mean, when I got here in 2018, we had a water problem, and this is going to solve the water problem, at least for the rest of my career or for this foreseeable future. So it's a good agreement. I'm going to have Jeff Jacob come up in a minute and go through the legal documents. I also have Sandra Morgan, our CFO, here. If you have any financial questions, she can help pencil that out. Ryan Ottinger here as well, our water and wastewater manager. Spencer Porter, our project manager, is going to help with the allocation agreements later. And you've already met David Bailey. So we pretty much got all hands on deck here for you, and we just want to help out here. So if there's no questions for me, I'll invite up Jeff Jacob to.
And just to clarify too, Orla LLC also is a subsidiary of Meta, right? So the data center west of town, that's what this is related to, just to clarify everything with that as well. So Jeff.
Thank you, Ed. Board, if you recall, about a year ago, many of us here this evening, we're here to talk about a very similar agreement, similar user with the Orla Meta Group for Project Domino. The Utility Board approved a pre-allocation agreement for that project, and then that was sent to you all as well for approval, which you did in fact approve. This agreement replaces that agreement. And what it does is has some updated terms as that project has evolved since that time, including some utility usage volumes for water and wastewater. Just to set the table again, beyond what Ed said, to remind everyone, our current system produces 4.6 million gallons a day of Lebanon-produced water. We have allocated all of that water some time ago. We are currently not using that level. We're somewhere in the high 3 MGD presently. And then also in November 24, the Utility Board, as well as yourselves, approved a water agreement, water supply or wholesale water supply agreement with Citizens Energy Group to supply an additional up to 25 million gallons of water over the next several years. So starting in 2027, there will be an additional 2 million gallons a day supplied by Citizens. And we jump up into 28, an additional 8 million gallons for a total of 10. Then into 29, an additional 7 for a total of 17, capping out with an additional 8 million gallons a day in January of 31 for a total of additional 25 million gallons a day. So if you compare that to where we are today at 4.6, that is a substantial amount of water that will be coming into the city for use within the various civil and LEAP districts, more than replacing the water that the Utility Board and this body allocated to Eli Lilly many years ago to help set the framework for the infrastructure agreements that have been approved with IEDC. Now, the agreement, as Ed mentioned, sets out various tiers, and those have been modified since the pre-allocation agreement last year. Meta or Orla LLC is requesting 500,000 gallons per day in January of 27, 4 million in January of 28, and 8 million by January of 31. And then 50% of that is their metered wastewater consumption request. Those have been taken into consideration by Ryan Ottinger and his staff and Butler Fairman as we're balancing all of those numbers starting in 2027 of additional water consumption. You will hear later with Spencer Portish some non-LEAP allocation agreements that are users outside the LEAP districts that are wanting to receive water in 2027 as well. All of those numbers, as we had questions about whether or not there's going to be sufficient water supply, all of those numbers are being balanced and monitored by Ryan and his staff and the engineering team, looking at helping numbers and making sure that the supply, once it hits in January of 2027, is allocated appropriately. The way this agreement works, if you'll recall, the process is like you have proved before. A 10% availability fee deposit would be placed on these water allocations to reserve those usages in 27, 28, and 31, should you approve this agreement. That's a refundable deposit. Once the water becomes available, meaning once we turn the spigot on, we give them 30 days notice, and they need to pay for the full capacity. If they don't pay, then it reverts back into the system. So I do want to talk about something that's a little outside of the utility lane, and that's wells. The Lebanon Utility Service Board does not regulate wells. That's an IDEM Department of Health or Board of Health issue. And I know there's been quite a bit of talk about wells out on that project site. What we have done and what the utility board is charged with for this site is providing water and wastewater service. And that's what they want to do. That's what they're good at doing. And so this agreement, there are wells out there on the LEAP site that we really have not, or the Orla site that we really haven't been involved with. But what this agreement does is consistent with city ordinance. And it spells it out very clearly that when we turn the tap on in January of 2027, Orla has a number of things it must do. First and foremost, it must stop using water out of its construction temporary wells. And we've defined that very clearly, what that's to be used for, temporary construction water. And they can do that. That's an IDEM Board of Health issue, not a Lebanon utility matter. The second thing they must do is pull the pumps out as a first phase of decommissioning those wells. And then the third step is decommission the wells. Now that can take some amount of time to decommission, and that's why Ryan and his staff very smartly said, hey, listen, not only do we want you to stop using the water, but before you formally decommission the wells, pull the pumps out. And that way, out of the abundance of caution, that way we're shutting down those wells. So really not necessarily the utility lane, but hearing that that was something that the city council would likely like to see happen in order to continue to provide some protections for the community. Because we have outside water that they will be utilizing, let's make sure we're very clear and go ahead and close those down. So that's contained in this agreement very, very plainly. So as Ed mentioned, this agreement has gone through many, many months of review and has gone through a significant process. It does come to you with Lebanon Utility Service Board approval last week. As we have done and the ordinance set out, because this is a agreement that is being made with a user, it also necessitates city council approval as well. So just as to fill in another piece, and we're talking about water usage, the utility board has also in the last few weeks approved a number of what we call reassessment agreements. That is for when we talk about our maximum water, that 4.6 MGD, we have studied our water output and levels and found some additional capacity that we're able to release to users for immediate consumption in 2025 and 2026. And so those reassessment agreements, I think we had maybe 6 or so of them that went through the utility board. They reviewed those with the city engineer, planning staff, and those have been released. So that's immediate use water. What we're talking about here this evening and later on the agenda are consumption for 27 and beyond. So I'm happy to answer any question. Ryan Ottinger's here as well if you have any technical questions.
Any questions for Jeff from the council this time?
A general question, and this may be more directed towards Ryan. I don't know. Do you have any type of like spreadsheet or something like on paper that we could see what exactly we have allocated already, made commitments to for all of our water out, and that way we can kind of see the plan? I know Jeff had said that you guys have been, crunching the numbers, making sure, just so it's easier for the council to see on paper throughout the, the next couple years, what all we have allocated, so we know exactly like what's left, what's, before.
Yeah, I can even answer that one. So
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
absolutely. That's something that we can provide to the city council. Don't go too far. I'm sure we'll have another question. Yes, absolutely. That's something that we can certainly provide and continue to keep the city council apprised of if that's something that you're interested in. So happy
That'd be
to.
great. Thank you so much.
Happy to.
Yeah, really, it's been the kind of a living document the last
I
2 years,
figured.
really. Yeah, so that's kind of.
2 years, 2 weeks, 2 days. It's
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
it is an ongoing monitoring. And so we've really, the reassessment agreements do not necessitate city council approval. So it's probably, I think your question or comment is well put, that we've gotten through that sort of phase of analysis. And now we're moving into studying what our 2027 water users and beyond would be. So yeah, we would be happy to provide that. So.
And Meta being part of the LEAP, their rates for water are still going to be different than what we have here in Lebanon City District, right?
Yes.
That's not going to change.
So a very, well, that would be the city council's purview, but correct. Nothing in this agreement modifies what their rate is. So this is just their consumption. So I think that is a good reminder. So the city utility board and then the city council did establish varying districts. And one of the heavy pieces with the LEAP district is that infrastructure charge that the civil district will benefit but is not paying. So we do have two very distinct rate districts, and this falls within the LEAP district and will be subject to the LEAP water and wastewater rate district rates.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, could you address the, who's paying for these, bringing that water here and the infrastructure on these sites?
Yes. So there's that, some of that may be a little over my head, but let me tell you what my understanding is. All of the infrastructure let's just talk about water for a second. The water infrastructure, as we indicated, enter into a water supply or wholesale water supply agreement with Citizens Energy Group, who has also partnered with Indiana Economic Development Corporation, who is doing some of the funding for the installation of the Citizens. And then on our side of the meter, the Lebanon utility portion of the infrastructure. So the council.
Jeff, IFA, not IEDC.
I apologize.
Yes, want to clarify.
So Indiana Finance Authority is the entity that has managed the funding. And so so on this side of the meter, meaning the Lebanon utility side, that is all being funded through the state. Even though there will be some benefit for what I will call what we've defined as the civil district. And so we're bringing that additional water in, and that's one of the benefits that the mayor and utility board have negotiated with IFA for the benefit of the ratepayers.
It's funded by the state, and then it's repaid by the rates of the people that are in the LEAP district rate. Right. So the infrastructure charge that Jeff was talking about, on like for every gallon of water they pay, a portion of their rate goes back to pay back for the pipes for it. But the IFA essentially is fronting the money to construct it all, and then will be repaid over time from the utility and the usage of the rates. So between Meta and Lily's investments, that's what's funding the repayment of the infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I didn't do a very good job of explaining that. Not only is that metered rate go into that repayment bucket from LEAP, but also the availability fees. So that's paying down that bond or that debt service.
Thank you.
So Jeff, do we have to service that water though, coming in?
I told Ryan not to go very far. I don't. Yes and no. Go ahead.
By service, do you mean treat it, or?
Is there any treatment of that water coming in?
Yes. So the water we receive will have a minimum of chlorine. So we've set parameters that citizens will have to follow when it comes to us. However, when it comes to us, we want to treat it to the same characteristics as our civil water, because it will all be blended. So at the meter point, there'll be two 1 million gallon storage tanks, and then there will be a chlorine station and a pressure booster station at that site, right at the metered site. So we treat it to our specifications on site, and then it comes to the LEAP and to the civil district. So it will be treated the same characteristics, same chlorine residual, same iron removal, everything that goes with what our current water is will be the same characteristics that we receive, that we send out. So we'll boost the chlorine up because there's a long way for that to go to get to us, and then there's a long way for us to send it. We'll boost it up, raise the pressure so it gets through all the way through that line. And then in addition to that, when it near the LEAP district will be a 2 million gallon water elevated water tower. The foundation has been poured already. It's out at the Kokosine job site where their job site trailers are. So that way we can also keep the pressure up. The LEAP district will be on a higher pressure zone because the industries in that area will need higher pressure than the residential pressure that we currently have. So we'll have a little bit higher pressure out there when we get there. But the characteristics of the water will be, and that will be the responsibility of Lebanon Utilities.
So I'm assuming then that with our rates pay for that treatment of that water, correct?
Yeah, that was factored in as part of the LEAP rate. The treatment, staffing, turning the lights on, all that was factored in as part of that in order to, so the civil did not have to pay any of that. So as part of the LEAP rates and the bonding structure, I don't want to get too deep into it. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know we had to input everything that we're going to be doing, from what a gallon of this chemical cost, what how much staff we're going to have out there, driving out there to the site, the fuel that it takes, the equipment that we'll need, all that was factored in.
Yeah, I don't know if this is your question or Sandra's question,
Probably Sandra.
but my question is, how does the LEAP rate, okay, if we're charging them a LEAP rate, okay, and that LEAP rate is going to pay the bond, part of the bond, what's going to pay for that service?
That is definitely a Sandra question.
So one thing, just to clarify while Sandra's coming up, that I want to make sure, the water as it's coming from citizens to our connection point is treated potable water. What we're doing is we are marrying it with making sure that it's compatible with Lebanon produced water. So, Sandra, go ahead.
If I understand your question correctly, so right now the way it works is we have 2 LEAP customers, and every month they pay their bill. We take a percentage of that, and that percentage goes towards the bonds. So it's called the capital charges. So all of that goes back to IFA, and they hold that money to help make those bond payments. There's a very small amount left over to pay for the rest of that. To date, we haven't charged any of that out. We're going to have a meeting we've only had 2 substantial bills on the LEAP side, so we have very little funds on hand. But we'll be talking to our board about what they want to start paying out of that.
A little bit you get really goes towards the extra treatment or whatever, if there's any extra treatment.
Yes.
Costs related to bringing
Yes.
that extra water. Okay. I just wanted to make sure LEAP was taking care of all that and there wasn't anything that would be coming back to
No,
our side. Okay.
it has been set up from the very beginning that the civil district is separate. Civil pays for civil, and nothing is bouncing over for LEAP to pay, nothing is bouncing over and paying for LEAP on the civil side.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
All right, thank you.
Like Sandra Fitter say, it's almost operating like 2 separate utilities, right? It's 2 separate pots of money that aren't intermingled.
Yeah, from a financial standpoint, what we've done is we have separated the LEAP utility from, the LEAP district, from the civil district. From a state board of accounts standpoint, we only have one water utility, but we keep the LEAP cash separate. We're keeping a whole set of books on just the LEAP district, a whole set on just the civil district, so that we can make sure that we don't commingle those funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay. Like Jeff, I want to have some public comment, and then if you ever want to step back up and respond if we need to, you can. All right, if there's any public comment concerning the water wastewater agreement with Project Domina, Meta, Orla, please come forward. And state your name for the record and keep comments to 3 minutes if possible. Yes.
First, could I ask, could we get copies of what she's talking about, the two from periodically, so that we can see that as well, just like the spreadsheet?
I'm sure Sandra would be happy to share that with you. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good, sir.
Marshall Whitlock, Lebanon resident. I'm going to read y'all a notice this evening. Judicial notice and demand to conserve the people's natural resources. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. I'm Marshall Whitlock, one of the people as seen in the 50 state constitutions, Republican in form, sui juris, do present you this notice by necessity that you and your agents may provide immediate due care. Please take notice that all political power is inherent in the people, Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, and that the people have a right to lawfully instruct their government. In Indiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 131, and that the entities, including corporations and bodies of politic government, are created with the permission of the people and are obligated to act in good faith and with due regard, solely for the people's benefit. Maximum law, good faith, demands that what is agreed upon shall be done. Maximum law, the welfare of the people is the supreme law. And please take further notice that beginning on November 26, 24, the people have served over 100 notices to local and state government officers, instructing elected officials as the people's government servants to provide remedy in order to cease and desist using public money for non-public purposes such as economic development, and showing claims, each of which were supported by the express written constitutional text, the highest law and maximum of the law, which are automatically implied in any contract and universally accepted as being true rules and principles of law. This notice also instructed state government servants to provide public notice to all departments of all state and local governments within the state of Indiana and give specific amounts of time to rebut or contradict the law and claims provided by the people. The people received no public response that in any way, form followed the terms stated in the notice. The people recognize that all notice government servants have tacitly acquiesced to such claims. The notice was read into the public record during the Lebanon City Council meeting December 9th. Please take further notice that all 50 state constitutions and the Constitution of the United States of America are the highest law, and that the people's natural resources, such as water, belong to them, and that the government exists to preserve such resources for the benefit of people. Pennsylvania Constitution, Article 1, Section 27, natural resources in the public estate. The people have the right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Public natural resources are the common property of all the people, including generations yet to come. Hawaii Constitution, Article 11, Section 1, conservation and development of resources. All public natural resources are held in trust by the state for the benefit of the people.
Sir, that's 3 minutes. Can you wrap up your testimony?
Excuse me?
That's 3 minutes. Can you wrap up your testimony?
Yeah, when I'm through, I will. I believe I let you speak. You're going to let me speak. Okay? Thank you.
I did let you speak,
I
sir.
said thank you. Have
sir,
a good day.
Yeah, sir. We have a 3 minute timeline.
I have something to say here. I'm going to say it. Let me speak what I'm saying. Thank you. Have a good day. Public natural resources are all held in trust by the state for the benefit of the people. See also Louisiana Constitution, Article 9, Section 1, Rolling Island Constitution, Article 1, Section 17, Alaska Constitution, Article 8, Section 2, Montana Constitution, Article 9, Section 1, Michigan Constitution, Article 4, Section 52, North Carolina, Article Constitution, Article 14, Section 5, Texas Constitution, Article 15, Section 59, and Virginia Constitution, Article 11, Section 1. And please take further notice that the conservation of the people's natural resources is an unavoidable obligation, and the use of the people's natural resources
sir.
for unauthorized purposes is an unofficial act for which there is no immunity. See Trump versus United States, 603-2024. Question, where in the Indiana Constitution there is a grant of authority to the use of the people's natural resources for unauthorized purposes, such as economic development funded with public money? Failure to show this constitutional provisional means you understand and agree that the people's natural resources cannot be utilized for unauthorized uses, and such resources
Sir, you need
must
to
be
conclude your
conserved
testimony.
solely for constitutional authorized purposes. Please take final notice. It is my wish, order, and demand that you provide remedy by immediately ceasing and desisting using the people's natural resources for unauthorized purposes such as economic development funded with public money, and by providing public notice of the same to all departments
5
of
minutes.
all the state and local governments within the state of Indiana. The order and demand includes the use of eminent domain to provide to the people's natural resources for such unauthorized purposes. If you believe that the government has been granted power to use the people's natural resources for unauthorized purposes, please respond by showing the constitutional grants of authority,
Sir, we've
or
public
you
comment for
agree
3
that
minutes.
this
You are now
practice
at
is unlawful.
almost 6.
Furthermore, please respond, and would you please be nice and leave me alone?
Sir,
Let
we've-
me say what I'm going to say.
Sir,
That's your problem, Matt Gentry. You don't let nobody else speak. Let me speak. I got a right.
Sir,
Thank
we
you.
have our
Thank you.
rule, our procedures
You
allow for
heard me.
3
I'm
minutes of
speaking.
testimony.
You are my public servant, indentured servant at that. Let me speak. Thank you.
We have public
Have a
comment for-
good day.
There are other people
You
that may
will
want to
listen.
speak,
Thank
sir.
you.
Sir,
Constitutional grant of authority, or you agree that this practice is unlawful. Furthermore, please respond if you disagree or any of the claims in this notice. All responses shall be made within 5 days receiving this notice by a sworn affidavit, by point, under penalty of perjury. Or you agree by tacit acquiescence to all claims herein, and this notice shall stand as evidence against you in all courts of record, that no court may rehear this matter, that this matter may be heard by an arbitrator of my choice, and that remedy as instructed is not given to people to whom you swore an oath will recognize it as being done purposefully with full knowledge, malice, and intent. All responses not sworn under penalty or perjury are considered non-responses. This notice is sent in the peace of love and Jesus Christ, that you provide due care
7
to
minutes.
those who hold all political power of the people. Maximum law, one lawfully commanding, must be obeyed. Maximum law, judicial notice is form of evidence. I thank you for your time very much, and I appreciate the next time I'm speaking, don't interrupt me. I don't interrupt you. I don't get up here and say anything to you, so don't do that to me.
I'm running the meeting.
No, respectfully, don't do that. I'm not one of these people out there you can just do that to. Thank you.
Sir, respectfully,
Yeah,
I
and I got
run
another
the city
question for you.
council
How
meeting.
come you went ahead and let these 4 wells get put in out here? How come? Mind telling me? People didn't ask for them.
you've been testifying for 7 minutes, sir. Okay, our rule, we have 3 minutes is what the suggested amount is. I've been
Do I
giving
tell you 3
warnings.
minutes?
Sir, we were running a meeting here, right? There's the
I know.
public
Do I-
meeting. We have to have some
You're
guidelines
speaking?
here.
Do I?
I didn't hear your question, sir.
I said, do I tell you 3 minutes only allowed when you're speaking? No, I don't. I
When
let
we
you
have public
speak.
testimony, we let people
I
speak for
let you
3
speak,
minutes.
sir. Now go ahead.
It's my responsibility as mayor to run the meetings, right? And we have to have guidelines on public testimony. And our public testimony is for 3 minutes. I let you now spoken for almost 8. Okay? So we have been respectful, right? I've been gently reminding you that you were over your time limit. We let you say your piece. You finished. Does that conclude your testimony, sir?
I'm going to approach you and give these copies to you.
You can pass it down there and they can pass it down for you.
Here, here, hand them all to here and we'll pass them down. Hand them all here, hand them all here. We'll pass them down.
Is there additional public
you, sir.
comment concerning this agreement?
I just asked you a question. I appreciate the answer.
On the wells, Mr. Whitlock,
Yes.
regarding the wells,
Yes.
the person before you just a minute ago spoke up and mentioned that Lebanon Utilities has nothing to do with those wells. It's from IDEM. That's where the your mission should be, because Lebanon doesn't
Okay,
have
who
anything to do with
approved
that.
the wells? I want to know who approved the wells.
IGEM.
IDM.
Also, the Boone County
IDEM.
Health Department has oversight of local wells as well.
Thank you. That's all I want to know.
Any further public comment? Seeing none? Any further? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, again, please keep comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Danielle Whitlock. I'm a resident over in Lebanon on right off 200. This is a notice and point of clarity. Do you agree with the Supreme Court declaring public money must be used for a public purpose? Notice is to agent as is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. I, Danielle Whitlock, one of the people as seen in the Indiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, Republican in form, sui juris, do present you this notice so that you do provide due care. Please take notice that I, as one of the people, wish for you to give a point of clarity based on your position as a sworn trustee, if you agree with the Supreme Court declaring public money must be used for public purpose or not. Any? Yes. It says, I wish for you to give a point of clarity based on your position as a sworn trustee, if you agree with the Supreme Court ruling that public money must be used for public purpose.
And this is an opportunity for public comment. This is not a question and answer session.
Okay, and it says, please take notice that the Supreme Court in Loan Association versus Topeka, 87 U.S. 655, 1874, declares the right of taxation can only be used in aid of a public object, which is within the purpose for which governments are established. It cannot therefore be exercised in aid of enterprises strictly private for the benefit of individuals, though in a remote way the local public may be benefited thereby. And in Cole versus LaGrange, 113 U.S. 1, 1885, the Supreme Court declared the general grant of legislative power in the Constitution of a state does not enable the legislature in the exercise of the right of taxation for any but a public object. These limits of the legislative power are now too firmly established by judicial decisions to require extant argument on the subject. Please take final notice. It is my wish and demand that you respond publicly within 10 business days with clarity in regard to your understanding if you agree with the Supreme Court that public money must be used for a public purpose or not.
Thank you for your comments. District public comment?
Jody Stewart. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Whitlock stated. In November, we, the people, started issuing notices to the city council. It went to the city council, it went to the mayor, it went to our governor, it went to our governor-elect, it went to several Supreme Court justices, as far up as the United States Supreme Court Justice. And in that notice, you were informed that you needed to cease and desist using public money for non-public purposes. We received no response. So therefore, each and every one of you agreed by tacit acquiescence that what we had in that notice was the truth. It also stated that if you continued using public money for non-public purposes, that you were acting maliciously and against your citizens. So I would just like to remind you of this, that no one answered that, and that can be held against you in a court of record because you failed to answer. No response is a response. I also have concerns about what is in this contract that you are getting ready to pass. One of them is the wells. It is specifically stated in this contract. I had a chance to read through it a little bit before I came to this meeting. And the city does have a code, And that code, as Mr. Krulik even stated when he was up here, you guys do not allow wells. Right now, there are people in the country, because these wells have been allowed to come in. I don't know who's responsible for that, but I know that Orla has requested that. Our wells are already measuring below what they measure. Most are up to 5 feet below when they were installed. We have a concern with that. That is in this contract. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Further public comment? Jeff, you want to say anything or close?
Just as a, I want to make sure that everyone is clear. So relative to wells, it's IDEM and Department of Health that manage those. Mr. Krulik is correct, and as is set out in this agreement, what happens is when city water becomes available, you must discontinue the use of the well. So what we've done is gone sort of, again, not really our lane from a utility board standpoint, but we've tried to make that abundantly clear in the agreement of what's supposed to happen, just so everybody was aware. So happy to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Final thoughts, discussion from council?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion then concerning the water wastewater agreement with Project Domino Orla LLC? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Dick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next up will be item E, which is non-LEAP pre-allocation agreements for New Cold, Paddock Place, Spring Creek, and Auburn Meadows, Section 4. Jeff Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Helping me with this agenda item this evening is Spencer Portish. You have in front of you 4 non-LEAP pre-allocation agreements for mainly 2027 and some 28 water with Spectra, New Cold, Phase 2, Beezer, and Lennar. These match what you saw few years ago with the Lilly project and how we did it more of a traditional pre-allocation agreement than what you just saw. The utility board has approved all 4 of these agreements, setting out some water and waste corresponding wastewater consumption into 27 and 28. These projects are very much on a list table that we can provide to you and show you where we are in terms of our 27 and 28 counts. Happy to answer any questions, but these follow that same format of they make a deposit that allows them to move forward with the city process from a construction and permitting standpoint. And then once the water is available and we advise them that we're ready to turn on the valve, they pay the full freight of the availability fee and then start becoming utility customers. So happy to answer any questions as to the numbers. Spencer's here. He can also address any questions that you would have on these agreements.
Any questions for Jeff? Sandra? Yep.
Since these are non-LEAP, like New Cold, the rest of them, they're going to have regular Lebanon civil rates, right?
Correct. They will be civil district and they will pay a non-LEAP or civil district rate for water and wastewater. You are correct.
When did you say these are going to be into pretty much effect using the water?
So these are all contingent upon us receiving the wholesale water supply from Citizens Energy Group. So they would go into effect really as anticipated January 1 of 2027. And then I think there were 2 requests for 2028 consumption, and we think that additional supply will hit in January as well.
Thank you.
Some of it just depends on the phasing, on how fast they build out a neighborhood, things like that too. So Spencer, anything you wanted to add or we're good?
Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like we've got what
Yep.
we have allocated and these guys start in January and there goes our.
So that's behind the scenes. There's been a lot of this. How do we put all these pieces together? And based on, when we did the pause, we essentially met with everyone that had an approved plan with the city. And Jeff, if you want to talk about that process, we can, but
Yeah, absolutely.
literally kind of laid it all out, like when are you going to open, when you need it, and went through that.
So any project, thank you, Mayor. Any project that we determine what's called a qualified project, those were projects that had been approved and were literally awaiting construction plan approval. There were some individual property owners in town as well that would have been a qualified project, meaning that they were waiting to pull a construction permit. All their other plans had been approved. What we did is we went back to those qualified projects and we the utility board did a 2024 assessment of the water supply to understand where everything was under various environmental conditions, to understand what our total number was. And the utility board approved the redistribution of some amount, a few hundred EDUs of additional capacity, and that was distributed to those qualified projects. And that is available. They paid for that water full freight. They paid their availability fee, civil district. They paid their availability fee, and then they will pay that civil district metered rate, and they can use that water immediately, okay? Now, on these pre-allocation agreements, those are coming into play only when the additional capacity comes in. And that's really any project that has come through the city and has requested some development plan or plat approval. It then makes it back to us. And this really acts as a receipt for payment of the availability fees so that they can, at their own risk, go back in and start their construction process and begin moving dirt, pulling permits from the city. All of the development community that we worked with was very, very responsive and appreciative of walking through this process, understanding. And if there are things that there are differing valves or infrastructure loops that need to be installed to make sure that the fire protection is there and that public safety is in place. They've been very good to work with and been very agreeable to do that. Kevin Krulik and Ben Bontrager have been fantastic and been a part of all of those meetings and are very well aware in terms of where we are numbers wise and with those non-LEAP developers.
Essentially, this gives them the certainty to be able to move forward with their project, right? So for example, the Spectra project, right, the project on 300 North, it'll take them a while to build that apartment complex, but we need to make sure they have water that they can count on by the time they go to flip the switch, right? So this is kind of what helps assure them that they'll have that water by the time they need it, more or less. So.
Jeff, this is a new process for us, is it not?
It is.
I mean, because I don't remember seeing it, and I like it, okay? I just don't remember seeing it in the past, so.
Well, the first one was the Project Grasslands project, was the Eli Lilly project. And that was really the first where these pre-allocation agreements were born. And so what we did before we really started into some of the other users, we needed to get through two big hurdles. Number one, we had to make sure that the funding was in place to pay for that infrastructure. And the reason that we issued the pre-allocation agreement in November, December for the Orla Meta team was to allow for that funding mechanisms to be in place to support the bond ordinances. So that's why a couple of the LEAP users went first. Now that we've crossed those off, we've handled the reassessment saying, hey, we actually have some additional water that we can issue now. That's been utilized. Now we're jumping into these non-LEAP. Now that we've got sort of the funding mechanisms and those users starting to fall into place, now we're able to step in and issue these non-LEAP pre-allocation agreements. So it is a very new process, although it mirrors what we did very similarly with Eli Lilly a couple years ago. So,
any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, is there a motion then to approve the non-LEAP pre-allocation agreements?
I'll make a motion, we approve the non-LEAP allocations agreements with New Cold, Paddock Place.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second from John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that is approved. Thank you, council.
thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City
Thank you, Jeff.
Council. And then we will be back in maybe a few weeks with a few more of these as some of the developers, they mature in their process. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks, sir. Okay, that concludes what I have for new business. Anything from council? Okay, we'll move on to claims. Entertain a motion concerning the claims. Sorry, we'll do announcements in a second.
I got a couple of things I'd like to.
Announcements?
Oh, no.
Well, let's do the claims first. Just make sure we pay our bills,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Motion to pay the bills from John, second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, announcements or discussion? Dick?
It's not an announcement, it's more like a kind of a discussion. Two things, one of them you and I discussed at the AIM conference. I know we're looking at the bot project for the Parks project.
Can you pull your mic a little closer, Dick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I know we're looking at the bot project for the West Side Park project. And I was just wondering if there's any way that we could have sort of a meeting with the Parks Department and John included, whatever, to find out if there's any other issues that they have that need to be taken. I know, we all know they got things that need to be taken care of. And I was just wondering if we could talk with them and see if we can group some of them all together, or maybe find out which one's really the most important ones to them at this time. I want to tear the buildings down, but if there's other things that need to be taken care of, I'm not sure the skateboard park ought to go right now. Maybe we ought to take care of some other things, but I think we ought to hear that from the Parks Board and sit down and see what they think before we jump into the skateboard park project. I just think I don't know if everybody wants to or not, or what. I just think that's something.
Well, I think we obviously been through kind of the high level conceptual design of the park as a whole. I think we're in a process, and we kind of did this on the fire station, right? We can accept proposals and find the right team and start going down that path and make sure that it's a right fit. And I know in the budget, we put the funding to fund with the bond. And I know John and I were talking today too, there's some needs too. We were talking about playground sets and things like that are, we mentioned the revenue and the food and beverage fund we have currently. So some of those kind of one-off smaller projects, I think makes a lot of sense to kind of get a wish list together, so to speak, I think for John. But I wouldn't necessarily want to put those in the overall bond, right? I think they're kind of two separate things, and I do frankly think we can do both with the healthy balance we have, and frankly the revenues we're getting monthly from the food and beverage continue to grow. I think we was looking at today, we've receipted in over $820,000 in the food and beverage fund this year already. That's not even the full year yet. So we're in a very strong position there with the food and beverage fund. So I do think there's definitely some value putting together some things on paper, playground equipment. There's discussions of the Rolling Meadows Park on the west side of town too. That's been a huge push from residents over there to see a kind of a restoration of that park. So I do think there's some things on that list that we could kind of check off and work through that. But I don't necessarily think we have to pause the West Side Park to do those things too. I think they can be both done together. Or maybe there's a way to package a few of those together and do even a different bot on those too as well. So
my other concern is that I think we need to probably sit down and put together a committee, yourself included, and Kevin, he's gone. Chad, I really think we need to move to trying to put together a police station somewhere. I know it's a lot of money, but I think the public needs to understand what we've got and what we need.
Yep.
And I think we need to really put together some plans to try to figure out where we can go and so forth, and try to get some information out there, basically to get public support.
I spoke with Ben since I'm his liaison, and when I meet with him, he said that they have kind of like a committee set up where they've been pulling, properties that we have or potential properties, and they've been sitting down and trying to discuss, things or properties that might be a good candidate, or maybe in the future might be a good candidate. So I was supposed to meet with him last week, but it got moved to next week. Anyways, but hopefully I could get an update from him on properties, or we can meet and then have him present just thought processes, because I know we're still kind of far out, but at least have something on paper and throw some ideas around. But they are doing that behind the scenes.
So. Yeah, so we've been So Ben and Kevin and Chief Morgan and Deputy Chief Dickerson, they've kind of been on a committee and kind of highlighting potential properties that make sense for them. But also Chief Morgan and I have been going out and doing some police station visits and tours, really trying to figure out what makes some sense, meeting with consultants and different people, try to kind of get their portfolio of work. So we're talking about doing, there's a larger firm that's partnered with a local company out of Chicago. So I'm working and trying to get some dates for a trip up to kind of Chicago area to see some of the stations they've built over there. They're building Westfields currently. But I haven't done much in Indiana yet, so I'm going to try to sneak over there to see some of those. So I would say we are moving those forward, and we're trying to kind of get our hands around what we think the direction makes sense for us. Obviously, we have the DLZ study. I even had a group look at that study that we presented and say, what would it cost to repair and save our current station, right? And it's probably close. They thought about $20 million worth of work just to save what we currently have. So they were frankly surprised of how bad of shape it was in. So it's certainly something that's on the horizon. A lot of spinning plates certainly, but it is a project we are still moving forward with it. But as with the kind of the turbulence we've seen with the SCA 1 and the property tax discussion State House, it kind of slowed down a little bit, certainly. But it's still a need. Chief Morgan and Deputy Dickerson know it's a need. We're pushing on it. It's the next building we need to build. But I wouldn't say it's either the park or that, right? I mean, they're kind of different kind of goals with them. And so there are needs certainly, but
Well, we got 2 former police officers on our council here, and I'd recommend that you kind of reach out to those guys too to get their opinions and as well to see what they think. And so
Have you guys,
I appreciate you looking and doing things.
Yep.
Okay.
have you guys considered where the old garage was to put the new police building there at all?
Yeah, the issue with that is it's not really centrally located. And that was something the value the police department saw. They wanted to be close to the center of the community. And so out on Lafayette Avenue is really not, and frankly, it's a very landlocked site.
It's 3 minutes from downtown. It's three minutes at the most from that area to downtown. I don't think there's anything in downtown available, is there?
Yeah, but if you also need to respond east and south, and they wanted to be closer to the main highways through town is what we looked at it. No notes after discussion?
Just want to make one comment. A couple of meetings ago, I made an announcement that we were working on 3 not new ordinances. We're going to amend the golf cart ordinance, introduce a UTV ordinance, and then looking into an ordinance for e-bikes or electric bikes. I said we were going to introduce those tonight. And speaking with the counselor here, we are not ready to do that yet. We should be hopefully ready 1st of December, our first meeting in December.
Next meeting
To introduce those so that we get those passed so that January 1st they're on board. And because I've been asked by a couple people, where are we with the UTV ordinance? Because they're eager to get that approved. So I just want to let them know, no, we have not forgot that. It is going to be introduced in December. It will pretty much mirror the golf cart ordinance. Our big thing is the e-bikes right now. And we are not the only city that is looking into this. This is statewide. A lot of cities looking into this ordinance because of the problems with electric bikes in cities. So hopefully we'll have all 3 of those to present to you.
Anything else? Okay. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn from Dick. Is there a second? Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our next city council meeting will be November 24th at 7:15 p.m. We are adjourned.
Thank you.